Hi, in this video, I'm going to cover the basics of internal family systems and how to get started with internal family systems, IFS for short, no matter who you are. Stay tuned to the end because I will be providing just a really quick, accessible activity that you can do to apply some of the things that we learned today, that I'm going to go over today. I am a therapist. I do use IFS on a regular basis with clients, but honestly, I use it on myself a lot. I've done a lot of personal healing by using IFS, and I think this is something that we can all use and should be using as a way to heal ourselves and really get over the things that we want to and get some healing. So here's the main idea. You can look about IFS and get all the science behind it, but this is how I like to kind of explain it to my clients and how I learned about it and how it makes sense to me, which I think is just more condensed and more accessible. So the idea is that we have some kind of pain, right? We endure some kind of pain growing up. And because we don't really have a lot of resources when we're little to deal with that pain, we develop what kind of we think of as like personality traits or skills to help maneuver that pain. So what ends up happening is that those traits get really amplified and used on a really regular basis as adults, even when it's not helpful. So a lot of times we look at these traits and they are actually our strengths. We kind of say, hey, I've gotten this far in life in whatever capacity because of this strength that I have. And this strength is actually kind of tripping me up a little bit, if we're really honest with ourselves. It's showing up in times when it's not needed, or it's showing up in like out of proportion to what's really needed. Maybe we just need a little bit of that personality trait or that strength, and it's coming full force. Maybe we only need it sometimes during the day, and it's just showing up a lot, right? Way more than other parts of us. So what we do with IFS is that we identify what those kind of overdeveloped personality traits are, and we figure out what happened to really make that trait be developed in the first place. We provide some healing to that part of you that at that whatever age it was. Once that age is kind of healed, that's inside of you, feels that healing, that overdeveloped personality trait can just naturally tends to chill out. And in some cases, it doesn't just chill out, but it actually transforms into something beneficial. So to really have this kind of hit home, I'm going to provide an example. So let's say when you were growing up, Annie was growing up and her parents, they really just were trying to motivate her to really do well in school. And the way that they used that was by using little comments that created some kind of shame and blame. So, you could do better. Did you really give it your best? Why don't you go try that again? So these comments with the intention from these parents to motivate and to support Annie to become the best that she could be, really had a different effect, right? She felt a lot of shame, like, I guess I'm not good enough here, and blame, like, I guess it's my fault, like something's wrong with me. Well, a little kid, let's say she's 7, 8 years old at this point, doesn't have the resources internally or externally to be able to manage that, right? That pain that is pretty unnatural to be received from your parent, right? The person who's supposed to be loving you unconditionally. So what ends up happening very naturally is that Annie then develops, let's give an example of just a perfectionistic kind of personality trait. So that way her parents give her a lot of praise, right? Which is really what she's looking for. She's looking for praise. She's looking for affirmation. She's looking for acceptance from them. And this is how she ends up getting it, is by overachieving and over excelling. So she's maybe putting in extra hours. She's doing a lot of extra work. There's an anxiety around that too. So then Annie gets older, right? And the thing about it here, and this is really interesting, is that she really then starts depending on this perfectionistic trait, thinking that it's really a resource and a strength for her because it's gotten her this far in life. It gave her the acceptance that she needed from her parents, but it also helped her excel in lots of different areas and get the approval and acceptance of other people in her life. And so this is now not only a personality trait that she's developed, but it's also a strength. And so she doesn't want to give it up. However, it is also causing a lot of stress, and it's also causing a lot of imbalance in her life, right? So she doesn't have enough time for her friends or her romantic explorations, or for her hobbies, or for her creative expressions, or for things in her life that add value, but that aren't perfect, right? So art or hiking or something, it's like, what? There's no value to that. So those parts of her life end up getting neglected and dimmed. And Annie discovers that she's just not connected, right? She's not, so something's off. She might actually be doing really well in life, but she's feeling a disconnection. So people talk about feeling disconnected. People talk about just feeling anxious or depressed. People kind of talk about maybe feeling exhausted. Maybe there's burnout. So, there's all these different ways of kind of talking about how this might end up feeling. But Annie starts feeling this way, and this relationship, right, that she has with this personality trait of hers, the skill, the strength that she has is shifting. It's showing up all the time. It's really overdeveloped. Because it was developed by, let's say, an 8-year-old, it tends to be pretty immature, right? So it doesn't have a lot of the emotional regulation or the frustration tolerance that we would have as adults, because it was developed by a child, and so it has some kind of these immature traits along with it. So that when she when that personality trait shows up, it tends to be a little immature. You kind of tend to think, gosh, I feel like I should know a little bit better here. So what we do with IFS is that we identify what that would be, and then with a guided approach, we actually get permission from this overdeveloped trait to connect with that hurt 8-year-old, right? And hear her story, right? And hear her pain. Man, I really wish my parents would just have accepted me, and would have told me like I was good enough just the way I was, and we hear her pain, and we really embrace that with a lot of compassion. Then we give the opportunity to do what's called a do-over. So what did Annie really need at that time? Maybe she needed different parents, right? Maybe she at least needed different skills from her parents. Maybe she needed to be exposed to something that she really naturally excelled in, so that she was getting more balance between the things that she needed to be challenged with and the things that she actually could do pretty well. Who knows, right? But using creativity, imagination, we give Annie a do-over. So then that 8-year-old Annie is feeling calm. She's feeling loved. She's feeling embraced. She's feeling safe. She's feeling confident. So what ends up happening to this personality trait that is a perfectionistic personality trait? We don't want that to go away, right? Because that's a strength, that's a skill. But we do want it to chill out and only be activated when it's needed, and only at the right amount in a more mature way. And so then what happens is that we give that overdeveloped kind of perfectionistic trait the opportunity to chill out, and maybe even to transform a little bit. There's a few other things too that happen within a therapy context, but just I wanted to just kind of give you an idea of what internal family systems is all about and how it could be helpful. So I'm gonna just end with what take home, right? Like something that you could do with this information, knowing there's a lot more to it, okay? But this is just kind of the basics. So something that you could do is actually using art and creativity. So those kind of aspects of us tend to be really muted because of our overdeveloped personality traits don't tend to necessarily be creative expression. So let's kind of tap into that creative expression and actually draw out some of the different personality traits that you might have. And so one way to do this is just to kind of sit in almost like a guided meditation or visualization with a piece of paper and pen or marker or pencil in front of you. And just think about something in your life, maybe even something that's kind of bothering you. Not something that's going to cause a lot of emotional distress, but just something that came up in the last week or last month that kind of bothered you. And just let the different personality traits that were involved in that situation appear one at a time. So think about the activity, think about the circumstance, let yourself feel a little bit of the distress, a little bit of the discomfort, and then see what comes up, right? So usually then a personality trait will show up. So what we're really looking for here is to draw out that personality trait. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a shape, maybe it's a personality, maybe it's a word on that piece of paper, and maybe it's tiny and it's in the bottom corner, or maybe it's like super big in the middle of the page, or maybe it's like this like looming kind of character that's like this ghost that's looming over everything. So just kind of let it speak to you and then capture it and draw it however it's showing up. And then just kind of say thank you and let it calm down. And then just sit there a while and see what other personality traits show up too. And until you get about 4 or 5 would be a good goal on your paper, right? So then this is going to give you an idea of visual representation of all the different kind of traits and personality parts. Parts is kind of the terminology that's used in IFS, your parts that are all activated here in this one situation. And what you're going to probably notice is what is your most overdeveloped part that's showing up. You might already have an inkling on what it is, but on the page, it really makes that clear. And then, you can just be more mindful and notice it, maybe even give it a name, right? Like I did with Annie, the perfectionistic part. And when that part shows up during your week, maybe even try to thank it. Right? Thank you for your intention to help me back when I was a kid, right? Recognizing and changing that dialogue and changing that relationship, starting to shift the perspective and that relationship that you have with that overdeveloped personality trait, and recognizing like, you were developed to really help me when I was 4, 5, 6, 8, 16, whatever. And thank you. Thank you for your intention to help me now too. So that's kind of the takeaway for how you can get started with IFS. Stay tuned. I hope to just give you lots more on this journey that'll help you to reconnect with your divine self that some of these personality traits might be kind of stifling. Okay. Good luck. Good luck on your art activity. I hope it goes really well.